Let's be honest, my friend said, while we were strolling down the streets of Brussels together. Of course, I said. Then she went, what is your biggest insecurity? I will start. The first time she went to school with her natural hair, someone told her, did you get stuck on electricity? I took a deep, deep breath. The first time I went to school with my natural hair, someone told me, your hair looks like hay. I also had your hair looks like horsehair. And that's why I always say that there lies so much power in an inclusive narrative. Because see, in my first year of high school, we had this calendar of UNICEF full of Black kids that were just starving. And our teacher had put all of our birthdays in it. So one day, I just decided to look through this calendar. I couldn't believe my eyes. Someone had put my name next to one of these kids. I remember till this day that immense feeling of solitude, the sadness, the disbelief. My teacher didn't find a better idea than to punish the whole entire class until someone would admit to it. After minutes of silence, one guy in my class finally found the courage to admit, sorry, it was me, accidentally. Don't do it again, my teacher said. And we could all go home. But for me, the pain didn't end there. I went home with it. I went to bed with it. I woke up with it. And I still didn't forget. I don't know if I will ever be able to forget. But don't worry. I'm not here to bring up all my traumatizing experiences, nor those of my friends. But I'm here to tell you that these are the violent environments you create when you show a single story on and on and on. When you see a single story on and on and on. And I'm not afraid to say that schools are one of the most violent environments to be at as a kid, especially when you're seen as different. Because why should my existence be a policy? A discussion of yeses and nos as if I'm just a body without a human experience. I do not need a policy to include me in something I'm already part of. I impose myself because this is an urgency. A while ago, I was scrolling down on Twitter and I saw this tweet that said, when did you realize you weren't ugly, but that you just grew up in a white era? Seeing so many comments of men and women made me feel less lonely. It resonated with me because this question goes with everything. I am beautiful. I am smart. I was not exaggerating. People that look like me do have a lot to offer. All those experiences formed me as a person. They made me the Black woman I am today. At the age of 14, I went to South Africa for the first time. I was so in shock to see so many people that look like me in one place. I had never experienced that. I was so in shock to see so many Black people in just one country. But after a few days, my confusion made place for immense happiness. And I really believe this was a big turning point in my life. Because then at 19, I went to Congo for the first time, my motherland. I felt so at ease with myself. The laughter, the tears of joy, the happiness, that feeling of freedom, that feeling of being right where I'm supposed to be. Coming back from that trip, I felt very lost. I was going to start my third year of university, and I had always felt like something was missing in my life. I saw most of my white friends having the best time of their lives, going out a lot, joining several student associations, and I tried. I really, really tried. But I just felt so out of place, drained and sad. So I went to Twitter with my idea. I really want an African student association in Leuven. Quickly enough, I got flooded with encouragements and people that said they needed a place like that too. So together with 3 friends, we sat together and created what became Caribou, an association for students of African descent. We had 0 expectations. I didn't even know if there were African students in Leuven. But we just made a Facebook event and waited. And what a success it was. I remember that first meeting as if it was yesterday. We danced, we laughed, we ate, and shared our experiences. That day changed my life forever. Me, a 20-year-old student, just made history with 3 other friends. At the end of that same year, we launched our very first event as an official student association, and I became the very first president. Through wind, storm, and resistance, we still made it happen. We heard it all. It's racism, it's discrimination. Why do you guys exclude others? Well, for those persons, I have one question. How does it feel to have so many spaces where you're always welcome? And don't be fooled. This is not only about schools, it's also about your workplace, about your living space, about your sport club. It's about every room you enter. Is it a non-violent place? Maybe you're more familiar with microaggressions. A microaggression is an unintentional form of racism, discrimination, harm, or violence against someone of a minority group. It could be someone touching my hair without asking, or it could be someone using a racial slur while talking about another Black person to me. Someone saying that I'm not like the other Black people. What does that even mean? Sometimes it would be a teacher making a racist comment during a class, and I would just have to sit there as if nothing happened. But you must know that I love discussing, and I will take every opportunity to do so. I had this class called International Politics since 1945, and I was very excited because I feel like everything with international always seems much fancier. But in reality, it's often a synonym for Western. Anyways, on the first day of that class, I was quite surprised to see that Latin America, Asia, and Africa were nowhere to be found in that course. And as I said, I love discussing, so I went to see the professor and asked her about it. She told me it was a gap in the course and that they are working on it. I find it quite scary to know that our future politicians, lawyers, nurses, doctors, and many more are teach such a narrow view on the world. I spend my days overthinking everything I've ever learned. Because why do I learn about Plato, Socrates, Aristotle? Like, wasn't there any other philosopher that kind of looked like me? It's wondering why I must learn the same things over and over again in my history classes. As a kid, I would always think about my future, about my man, my children, where I would see myself. And I would always portray myself in a white environment. Now imagine that you're only able to portray yourself in an environment with people that do not look like you. And as hard as you try to portray yourself in an environment with people that do look like you, it just doesn't work. And I would write stories, a lot of stories, but I would only write about white girls. I think at this point I should already have been a best-selling author. But on a real note, writing a story with a Black girl as a main character, that seemed quite unrealistic. For me, skin tone just meant white. And I'm not the only one that struggled with the perception of herself or the world. Do you know the doll test? The doll test was a series of experiments conducted in the 1940s by Kenneth and Mamie Clark. Basically, you would have 2 dolls, a white one and a Black one. And they would ask children questions such as, who is the beautiful one? who is the rich one, who is the smart one. And sadly enough, often these children would assign the positive attributes to the white doll and the negative ones to the black doll. They also conducted this experiment in Belgium, in a TV program, Wonderiaren, and they came to the same results. Actually, they conducted this experiment in many countries for several years, and it was always the same results. Black children would assign the positive attributes to the white doll. And that's why we need a safe space. A safe space is a place free of discrimination, racism, violence, harm. You must see a safe space as a micro-society in a bigger society for people that are not always welcome in a bigger society. And maybe you might think, well, why is that needed? Well, I hope that after everything I've told you today, you can at least see the importance of a safe space. And I know, it's quite impossible to make the world a non-violent place. But there are many other things we can do. We can teach differently. We can portray differently. Did you know that media is called the fourth power? That's for a reason. Learn to unlearn what we have learned to believe. Step out of the box you're used to staying in. And I'm really talking to everyone. We all have the power to make a change. I'm 23 now, and Caribou still exists and grew even bigger than it was in the beginning. We changed the life of many, but I also changed my own life. I refuse to make all the negative comments about our accomplishments overshadow what we did, because I now go to bed knowing that I contributed to the happiness of so many students. We match stories with faces, opportunities with people. And although we did it because it was really needed, I hope that one day schools will realize that it was never on us to make your institutions a safe and better place. We changed your university for the better. To end my story about me and my friends strolling down the streets of Brussels together, we ended up crying and shared painful experiences, and then gave each other a big, big hug. Me and my friends starting our own student association, or even me being here today, is not only a success story. It's also a story about how our system still fails to protect so many of us. Thank you.